Well, it's time for another Billy Blackbird story, so I hope you're sitting comfortably. And I'll begin. It was getting close to Billy Blackbird's birthday, and Billy was getting quite excited about it. And when he told his neighbour and friend, Tommy Thrush, about it, Tommy Thrush was quite excited as well. "Oh, yes," he said, we must have a birthday party for you, and we'll invite our neighbour birds, and we will have fun. We'll have lots of nice things to eat," he said, "like worm sandwiches and berry buns, and we'll play games. We'll play blind bird's buff and hunt the acorn. And," he said, "we'll have some fancy hats." "Fancy hats?" said Billy. "Well, yes," said Tommy Thrush, "like the children do. Down in the village when they have a party, they put funny hats on their heads. Oh, it does look funny." "Well, I'm sure it does," said Billy Blackbird, "but where are we going to get fancy hats?" "Yeah," said Tommy Thrush, "that's a point. I don't rightly know. Must be somewhere we can get them. Perhaps Dr. Owl knows, 'cause he knows everything about everything." So they went to see Dr. Owl and told him about their plans, and he was quite interested. And he said, "I don't know where you can get any fancy hats," he said. "No, not around here." And then a twinkle came into his eye. "But," he said, "you could make them." "Make them?" said Billy Blackbird. "Yes," said Dr. Owl, "and I'll show you how to do it." And with that he went to the corner of his little room, fetched a piece of paper, and he began to fold over there, fold over there, fold that, and hooting away to himself. Hoo, hoo, he was enjoying himself. And very soon he came up with a fancy hat, something like this. There we are. Oh, my head's too big. Oh, wait a minute. As it happens, I did make another one, just in case. Dr. Owl made a hat something like this. And when Billy Blackbird saw it, he was delighted. "Oh, marvellous," he said. "Wonderful," clapping his wings together. "Oh, you are ever so clever, Dr. Owl." "Oh, I don't know about that," said Dr. Owl. "I just use my brains, you know." "I hope you'll use your brains too." Well, I would like to make some fancy hats. Will you show us?" Of course," said Dr. Owl. "Just watch." And with that he folded another piece of paper, showed them exactly how to make a fancy hat, and then gave them a roll of paper and sent them off into the forest to find a tree stump where they could fold them. Oh, they had a marvellous time folding these bits of paper and making these party hats, and they soon had 20 or more. In fact, so many that when Billy Blackbird stored them in his nest, there wasn't room for him to sleep there that night, and poor Billy had to sleep down at the bottom of the tree. Well, when he woke up next morning, of course, he flew up to his nest just to see if the hats were all right, and lo and behold, there wasn't a hat left. They'd all gone. Billy was ever so upset. "My party hats," he said, "they're all gone, gone. There's a thief in the forest. I've been burgled. What am I going to do?" And even as he was bewailing his loss, he heard a lot of chitter, 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 chatter, chatter from a tree opposite. And there were a whole crowd of starlings. and each of them had one of Billy Blackbird's hats on his head, and they were strutting up and down, ever so proud, having a wonderful time. Well, you can just imagine how cross Billy Blackbird felt. So he went up to the tree and he looked up and he said, "Give me back my hats." And the starlings just said, that made Billy Blackbird all the more cross. "Give me back my hats," he said. And the starlings went, that made Billy even more cross, and he began to jump up and down. "Give me back my hats," he said. And of course the starlings all went, well, it looked as if Billy would never get his hats back, and he didn't know what to do. And of course, whenever he was in trouble, off he would go to see dear old Dr. Owl, who was ever so wise and, of course, ever so good and ever so kind. And when Billy Blackbird told Dr. Owl what had happened to all the fancy hats that he'd made and how upset he was, Dr. Owl thought for a moment and put on his wise look. "I'll tell you what you can do," he said. "Yes," said Billy. "Well, you must find a nice big bag." "Yes." "Then you must go to the tree where the starlings are." "Yes." "Then," said Dr. Owl, "you must put a hat upon your head. Make another hat. Put it on your head." "Yes," said Billy, getting quite interested. "Then," said Dr. Owl, "you must take the hat off your head and you must throw it at them." "Throw it at them?" said Billy. "I want to get my hats back, not to throw more hats away." Dr. Owl waited for a moment for Billy to calm down, and then he said, "Billy Blackbird, just do it." Well, of course, Billy didn't like to quarrel or argue with Dr. Owl, after all. So, grumbling to himself, "I never heard such a daft idea in my life," nevertheless, he found a big bag, and he asked Tommy Thrush to come with him to see what would happen. And he stood under the tree, and the starlings were still there, prancing up and down, ever so proud of themselves with their hats on. Well, Billy went through the process that he was told to do. He started first, of course, "Give me back my hats," and they went, went through all the process, and then finally Billy put the hat upon his head, and he said, "Give me back my hats," and he took the hat off his head and threw it at the starlings. And what do you think happened? All the starlings took their hats off and they threw them at Billy Blackbird, and they all came fluttering down from the tree. And very quickly Tommy and Billy grabbed them, picked them up, put them in the bag, and went back to their nest. Now that day Billy Blackbird learned one of Dr. Owl's secrets. Well, it's a secret that you can learn as well. We like to call it the golden rule. Put briefly, it is, do as you would be done by. You will find that it works.